Yeah, I'm Allan Cantle. I'm CTO and founder of Nallatech, but we're now part of a Molex company, of Molex, and I'll give a bit more detail there. Um, I've titled mine OpenCAPI enabled FPGAs, the perfect bridge to a data-centric world. So that's just really a bit of a backdrop of my presentation. Um, it's, I've got a lot to talk about on the hardware front, maybe a little bit of a sales talk in that sense, but I'll give you some frameworks around the thinking of these architectures that we're bringing to the market. So just a brief overview on Nallatech for those of you that don't know us. We've been in the FPGA compute acceleration arena for about 25 years, and we've been qualified in just about all of the big server companies in their platforms, and we've been deployed in many thousands of nodes over the last decade or so. We were acquired. We've been acquired a couple of times. The latest acquisition was by Molex, but Molex are a $6 billion connector and cable company, as I'm sure everybody knows. They're on the connector and cable side of the world, but they were actually taken private by Koch Industries back in 2013. And that Koch is in the oil and gas field, and they wanted to get into the technology sector, so Molex was their entree into the world of technology. And the vision of that was to be a leading global provider of innovative electronic solutions that create value for our customers and society. And really, Nallatech is at the forefront of that on the systems and solutions side of the business, building on top of Molex's capabilities. We were acquisition number 8, and there have been several more since. So, but as well as that, we were initially acquired by the ISI group back in 2008. ISI specializes in miniaturization and packaging. We then laterally in 2010 acquired another FPGA company focused on some more data acquisition side of things called Innovative Integration. And just about 3 months ago, some of you are familiar with the FPGA acceleration suppliers. Bitware was a competitor. We acquired Bitware just 3 months ago. So you can see we're investing quite a lot in this area, and growing quite aggressively. So just on that front, I will bring some of the presentation material does come from our colleagues at Bitware as well. So the way I really wanted to start this is why OpenPOWER. So Brad McCready kicked this off, as Myron said, I think it was 2013, 2014. And the vision then was saying, you know, Moore's law's broken. The computing architectures need to evolve into more of a data-centric world, and we need a whole community, a whole ecosystem to actually really innovate and change this world of computing. So that was, you know, IBM were a little bit ahead of the game there maybe. We've had certainly data-centric enhancements over the last decade, but arguably they've been relatively sticking plaster over that last decade. But we really need to start to get tucking our teeth into making some more radical and more bold architectural enhancements. So I'm pleased to say this is very new data. The gods of computing architecture have spoken. So how many people are aware of the book Computing Architecture in Hennessy and Patterson? So a good proportion, maybe 50-50. So yeah, these two chaps, John Hennessy and Dave Patterson. John Hennessy was a chairman of Stanford, I think, and Dave Patterson was on the Berkeley side. They got together to write this book, Computing Architecture, and there's been like 7 or 8 editions. The FPGAs have historically just got a little paragraph. GPUs were added recently. Hopefully we will see a big section on FPGAs in the next release. But a couple of things. Hot Chips, it's just happened in August. Hennessy introduced Victor Peng, who's the new CEO of Xilinx. And in his introduction, he said this: domain-specific architectures have to be the future of computing, and then a domain that's rapidly changing, and it's why I think FPGAs have a particularly critical role to play as we begin to change those architectures. So this is from the, like I said, this is from the gods of computer architecture. And then just literally last week, or a week or two ago, Patterson said it's time for new computer architectures and software languages. And there was a IEEE article on that, and that was just a couple of weeks ago. And I think, you know, we've been doing a lot of changes. We've had RDMA, we've had, you know, DPDK, SPDK, all of these circumvention strategies to get around some of the inefficiencies of CPU-centric architectures, but they've been a bit of a sticking plaster just while keeping things going. So we need to make more radical changes, and these guys are saying it now. So maybe we should pay attention, seeing they're saying it. So if we look at domain-specific architectures, platform flexibility is essential. Today's processors, you know, we don't deal with homogeneous. We've got GPUs, CPUs, large and small, FPGAs and TPUs, as Myron was saying. Memory and storage is beginning to converge and become one. Disaggregation is become popular because you want different mixes of pieces, but really it's going to put a major strain on the network, especially if you just use a top-of-rack network approach. So reaggregation really isn't that scalable, and hence I think where the domain specifics coming along, you will wire the architecture of your computing platform to be more friendly to your application. And FPGAs really are the only processor today that are truly data-centric, and they were when they were born. Fundamentally, they're a streaming processor where you build the compute around the flowing data. It's I/O and can talk any fabric protocol. I think this is critical. We heard the question earlier was about the OpenCAPI fabric versus others. Certainly the FPGA, the beauty of FPGA is it can talk all of those different competing fabrics. And oddly enough, everybody gets those fabrics up and running on FPGAs, particularly Xilinx FPGAs. That's a huge, we can architect some solutions and say, you want Gen Z, you can have Gen Z today. You want OpenCAPI tomorrow, you can have OpenCAPI tomorrow. That's the beauty of the FPGA there, and that's part of what Hennis is really saying. And the other thing I think, which is in the world of switching, if you look at top of rack, the switching has become the power hog. It's not the computing, it's the moving of the data, and now the actual switches themselves. And now we're disaggregating, we're just going to make it worse. So sometimes you don't need a full-blown switch. Sometimes you move terabytes from A to B, and you don't need to switch it at a 64-byte packet level. So the FPGA, not a very good switch, but if you do a direct connection for an application, it's very efficient. So the FPGA can be a good circuit switch and/or it can be a packet switch as required by the application. So really, FPGAs provide both acceleration and they provide the glue for domain-specific architectures. And so this is a direction. This is a system level part of the equation. Everyone thinks about silicon, but there are some serious system challenges when you go data-centric. So I've talked about this particular architecture. This is a base architecture. If those of you that know the Microsoft one, it's similar. What Microsoft used in Bing, it's similar to that. There are some subtle differences I won't get into, but this is just a really more of a recap. The OpenCAPI bus is giving us a beautiful bridge to go from the CPU-centric world to the data-centric world. Whilst, you know, if you want to stay CPU-centric and you want to use accelerators purely as co-processors to that CPU-centric world, the OpenCAPI bus gives you great bandwidth and ultra-low latency. Whereas if you want to really flip the switch and go purely into the data-centric, you can do that. And so, but we can't and we don't want to throw away those 30, 50 years worth of software. So, IBM have provided this this platform and it opened it up for everybody to use. So we have this great bridge that can take us from one to the other without breaking the historic architecture. So in faith to that, we Nallatech came up with this basically this architecture based around the OpenCAPI as that bridge, as I was saying earlier, and this was our first entry into OpenCAPI, and it was more of a proof of concept. So you've got the really high bandwidth for the OpenCAPI bit to the processors. we have the same match bandwidth to the storage and the same match bandwidth out to the data plane. This was the physical product, so it leverages. So this is an OCP platform for those of you that came from OCP the last couple of days. This is a rack space Barrel-I OCP platform with a Google Xeos OCP motherboard and a twin Power 9s, and it's got 4 OpenCAPI ports. But on the right there of the picture, you see 3 red cards. Basically, that used to be 24 SSDs. We modified the platform and replaced it with an FPGA blade with 8 M.2 NVMe SSDs that provided enough bandwidth to saturate 1 OpenCAPI port. So you've got 200 gigabytes per second of storage bandwidth that can be fed into through the four ports. And by the way, when I say 200 gigabytes, I add transmit and receive. I think we're moving from the fabric world to the compute world. Fabric talks bits bits in duplex, and computing talks bytes in simplex. So I think we need to agree what is the language, because whenever I have this conversation, so this was really, like I say, a proof of concept. This has caught a lot of attention at the various shows, and it does begin to get people thinking about looking at the architectures in a different way. It's downstairs, yes, if you want to go in. It's on the OpenCAPI booth downstairs. This was our first foray, but really, maybe it's ahead of its time. It's also only in this particular platform, so it's not, everybody still wants to see PCI cards. so you know, this is part of, we need to start breaking the mold and moving away, and this is one little idea in that direction. But what we did is we actually said, well, okay, that form factor is a little bit odd. It's got the FPGA acceleration, the interfacing to the OpenCAPI, and it's got the switch, PCI switch, and the NVMe storage. So we said, let's go a bit more back to normal. Chop off the FPGA and the storage. We'll connect them separately. Sorry, chop off the switch and the storage. We'll connect them separately. And we came up with this card called the 250 SoC. So fundamentally, it's an NVMe over Fabric storage controller. So you can plug this card into a JBOF. We support a number of different configuration JBOFs, and we work with Xilinx in their NVMe over Fabric IP to bring this product to market. But equally, on the right-hand side, these 4 Oculink cables give you 32 lanes of PCIe to connect out to the storage. But we also support up to 2 OpenCAPI channels on there as well. So again, to the flexibility of the FPGA, we can switch from a PCI attached to an OpenCAPI attached, and the cabling really does give us this flexibility of hardwiring these for a particular application need. I wanted to show this partly because this is Molex's, but PCI SIG. This is actually a PCI SIG drawing, but it's showing inside the server now. You're beginning to see more and more cabling of connecting the different elements together, and this is a PCI-based cabling. The Oculink is an internal cabling, but it's designed specifically for carrying PCI. And various types of interconnect there from the cards, from the adapter cards to the storage or on the motherboard. And Alpha Data, you saw that they had something similar. So you know, this has become becoming more and more popular, and I think as we go more modular and we have more specific applications, hardwiring to your needs rather than going through a switch and burning power, and it may be the way to go. Obviously, not. It's more application specific, when you do this. So the card. This is just a photograph of the card. It's a low profile card fundamentally. So in a large picture on the right, you can see the 4 Oculink connectors. So they're really quite small connectors. On the left-hand side, you've got the 200 gig ports going out to the outside. So the Oculink is internal facing, just like I said. You can take it into a full height card and add a gigabit Ethernet. This is the SoC, the Zinc version of the Xilinx FPGA. So you can run a full Linux stack in there as part of your storage controller. The photographs on the right, the top one is just showing you so the cables plugged in and flying off to the right-hand side, and the bottom one is just showing the low-profile one without the Gigi attached. So it really is a Swiss Army knife of a card, and we do have people sometimes they very rarely use all of the ports. But this diagram really it's a bit of an eye chart, but it does really give you an idea of the various the very many configurations you can do with this card. All I really want to highlight, if I can get the mouse up, maybe I can get the mouse up. Never mind. The ones, so the red arrows, are basically the OpenCAPI arrows. So in the very middle one, you can see there's an OpenCAPI channel going back to the CPU alongside a PCI channel, and you've got 4 direct attached NVMe drives. And then to the right of that, there's an example with using an OpenCAPI channel to each of the CPUs, and then going for a PCI switch to maybe 24 NVMe drives. So, and there's a bunch of other connections here. The Oculink IOs can also turn into additional network IOs. So lots of configurations, and we have many examples of customers using the different configurations. I also just wanted to show from the CAPI 2.0. This is an OpenCAPI enabled card. It's a CAPI 2.0. It's the 250S Plus, and basically it's got onboard storage. It's got up to 4 M.2 NVMe SSDs and a PCI by 8 Gen 4 to the host, and it was providing a CAPI bridge for a CAPI flash attached between the FPGA and the Power 9 CAPI bus. That's all I really want to say on that one. There is also a cabled version of this, but really the SoC version replaces the need to have this cable version. Yeah, that's just showing a block diagram of that card, so you can see the different ones attached. So the reason why I want to show you both of those is if you take the 250S SoC and the Flash GT with the 4 memory sticks, we've actually we're in the process of developing an OpenCAPI hybrid memory subsystem architecture, and effectively it's a blend of the two. So we've added onboard 4 sticks of onboard M.2 storage to the 250 SoC card, so it's actually local. But we're also making our own NVMe M.2, well not NVMe, M.2 NAND stick with a Xilinx FPGA, the KU3P, so that's the ones on the right. So what we're doing there, and we've got 32 gigabytes of DRAM over 3 channels, 3x72 memory channels. So the combination of the NAND and the DRAM allows you to potentially build some hybrid memory solutions where, and I'm not sure if if Ken's presenting today at all. You are tomorrow. So go to Ken's presentation on the hybrid memory IP from Rambus. But you'll see that there are some tricks you can play to actually make the combination of NAND, flash, and DRAM to actually almost be as performant as DRAM by itself. Ken will give you a lot more detail on that. Just a little bit more on the individual pieces. That's the M.2 NAND, M.2 stick. The other thing here is that there's a lot of innovation going on unbundling the flash controller with open channel. Thanks. So that's an interesting one there. I'm short of time, so I'll race on. And that's just a space model of the card. So it's a high profile card with the sticks and the FPGA on the card. Just touching on our friends at Bitware, they have a VU37P, so the HBM that we've been talking about this morning, card, and that supports OpenCAPI as well with 2 connectors on the back. That's the basic architecture. They've got 2 DIMMs. Also, I know that typically IBM and Xilinx are going together, but the Intel Stratix 10 has a couple of interesting differences. If you want to do floating point on the FPGA, they natively support it in the Stratix 10. And also there's this other low latency, or this storage class memory called 3D Point from Intel, and you can only really support that if you're going to buy Intel's chips. So this one has 2 DIMM slots that can take Intel's 3D Point Optane, and we have the OpenCAPI enabled on this card as well. So potentially, this one's more of a, we need to get a little bit of a customer pull on this to get IBM to help on some of the porting of the IP to the OpenCAPI IP to the Intel FPGA. So I just thought I'd throw that one in there. That's the architecture of that one. It's in development right now, so not right now. It shouldn't be too long. And finally, this one is so those of you that know the AC922 platform from IBM, it's a dual power 9 and it's got 4 Voltas SXM2 modules that you can plug in. This one, but that module is also supports OpenCAPI mezzanine modules. So this is a product that we're beginning to kick off right now, where we actually can plug the VU37P into that socket, but we also provide a lot of I/O, that cabled I/O, so that you can build some interesting architectural tweaks for your requirement. There's the basic layout. So we've got 4. These are called near stack connectors. These can go out to QSFPs to go into to the wider network. And there's 4 Oculink ports, just like you saw on the 250 SoC, for connecting to storage or doing Taurus interconnects, etc. And finally, you've got the connectors on the bottom that are already hardwired on the AC922 motherboard. There's just a couple of space shots there. This is the server, the AC922 server. That is showing the 4 sockets for the air-cooled version. If you have the water-cooled version, you can have an additional 2 OpenCAPI sockets. And here is just one quick example of a potential configuration. Remember, a lot of this is cabled, so the blue ones are blue and green are cables. So you can change these configurations. But basically, I've just put the speeds and feeds around. You've got 400 gigabytes per second from the Power 9s to the 4 VU37Ps. And you've got matching bandwidth coming out the networks that you could potentially connect to NVMe over fabrics. So you've got a storage just keeping up with the data rate of the OpenCAPI ports, and you can be doing a lot of AI work, etc. In the FPGAs. And then you've got the interconnect between the 4 FPGAs if you want direct communications. This is just an example. There's many other configurations you can potentially do with this. Really interested. This is definitely more in the HPC world, so I'm really interested in anybody that's got an interest in this area. Please come and talk to me after, and we can and maybe Peter as well, and we'd be delighted to go into more detail on what we're doing.